Alright, so this video is going to be about the worst cellmate that I ever had. The worst cellmate I ever had, guy's name was Hyunkook Korsiak. And this guy was a prick. Straight up. So, he made the journey with me from county jail to prison, back to prison. So, started off, we're in the county jail, and Hyunkook is Vietnamese, adopted by white people, so raised by white people, but he looks full Vietnamese. Hyunkook is all about MMA, mixed martial arts, right? I like mixed martial arts. When I was a kid, I did judo, I did taekwondo. I like that stuff, but I don't like doing it in jail. Reason why is because jail is not the place to do that. You gotta, if you're gonna wrestle, you gotta wrestle on these nasty floors. If your clothes rip or something, you don't have extra ones. They get dirty. You can't just go throw them in the wash. Jail is just a very unsanitary place. I don't like wrestling in jail. I have done it before. A few times, but it was with some people that I kind of trusted, and we just messed around, and these were like cool people. Hyunkook was not a very cool person. Whoa. I'm driving to San Diego right now to help my mother move some stuff. So Hyunkook is into mixed martial arts, and Hyunkook is a very mean, just evil person. Like, always, anytime you talk to him, he's always just talking about hurting people. He wants to break somebody's arm. Hyunkook has also done his entire life in prison, so all the martial arts that he's learned. So when you're in prison, you get a TV, and you can watch, the UFC fights, and they show you like training stuff. Well, Hyunkook, all his martial arts training just basically came from the TV, and just watching them do stuff in the UFC, and just practicing it on other people in jail. He did have a martial arts background on the outside too. I don't think it was very extensive, but he had some basic knowledge of chokes and different little things that he could do. So Hyunkook is not my cellmate. And he had a cellmate this is in the county jail. He had a cellmate that he was having problems with. I'll move the camera over a little bit. He had a cellmate that he was having problems with. And my cellmate had just moved, so I had an extra bunk in my cell. And Hyunkook, he's been in the county jail, he's done his whole life in jail. And so in this county jail, he knows all the guards, and so he's got like a little bit of juice, so he can, if he wants to move to a different cell, like he knows the ins and outs. He knows which guard to ask, which guard not to ask, when to ask. Just a straight convict. So Hyunkook comes up to me and he says, "Hey, guess what? We're gonna be cellmates." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, great." And I'm just thinking, man, I do not want to be cellmates with this guy, because I see him he's always trying to do mixed martial arts with people in the laundry room, always trying to wrestle. And I'm thinking, and he says, he asked me, he says, sorry guys, I'm driving. He says, "Are you into MMA?" And I'm just like, not really. He says, "Well, I'll show you a few things." And I'm thinking, dude, I don't want you to show me a few things, right? So we become cellmates, and I'm hoping he doesn't try to start asking me if we want to practice, because I don't want to touch the guy. I'm not into touching dudes in my cell, right? So he doesn't ask me. About 3 days goes by, breaking the ice, chatting and stuff, and everything that comes out of this dude's mouth is just hateful. Wants to hurt this person, wants to hurt that person, how he hurt this person, and Have you heard about me? Do you know about my reputation? Huh? Oh, I've broken arms here, and when I was at prison, I used to break everybody's arms, and just everything's about hurting people. And I'm trying to do my thing. Like, I'm trying to read the Bible. Like, I think at the time that I was cellmates with him, I think I had already gotten through my withdrawals. But I was a hardcore junkie. I'm trying to turn my life around, and I'm trying to just focus on the Bible. I got my workout thing. I'm trying to just work out all the time. And Hyunkook does work out. Oh, I'm gonna miss my exit. Hyunkook does work out, but he doesn't work out like me. He doesn't take it very serious. He does a couple pull-ups, does a few push-ups, and that's it. Like, I'm into like hardcore training. So about on the third or fourth day, he says, hey, you want to wrestle? And I'm just like, no, I don't want to wrestle. He's like, come on, I'll show you some things. He's like, come on. I'm like, no, dude. He's like, come on. And I'm just like, all right, yeah. All right, so you put your hand here, you put your hand here. I'm going to show you something. And I already know what he's going to do. He's going to grab my wrist. He's going to try to turn my wrist around and show me like some move, right? And that's what he does. He grabs it. See? I'm like, yeah, all right, that's great, man. He says, all right, I want you to tackle me. And then I'm going to try to get out of the tackle. I'm like, all right. So I tackle him, and he gets me in like, some choke. I'm like, all right, man, that's cool. I don't feel like doing this no more. So that was that. A couple days later, he wants to wrestle, right? I do not want to wrestle with this guy. Anyways, he ends up getting transferred to prison. I'm still in the county jail, fighting my case. Eventually, I was done fighting my case, and I got transferred to prison. So, in Maine, the way it works is you got the county jail. And then when you go to prison, you have two options. Well, you've also got your low security places where you can go to farms and, work at the potato farm. But for like maximum security, like lockdown, and medium security, you have two options. You can go to Wyndham. Wyndham is like the transfer facility / prison. They put everybody in Wyndham first, and then if you have a certain amount of points, then they'll transfer you to Maine State Prison, which is called MSP. Or some people just stay at Wyndham and they just do all their time at Wyndham. You got a lot of like the sex offenders that will stay at Wyndham. They don't transfer them to Maine State Prison because they got problems up there. You got a bunch of people from Maine State Prison that have problems, and they get transferred to Wyndham to get away from the problems that they have at the prison. So Wyndham is considered the relaxed prison, whereas Maine State Prison is where they put the most hardcore of the most hardcore. So I get transferred to Wyndham first, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm going to get transferred. I don't know if I'm going to stay there, but I'm there for a couple months, and I'm getting used to it there. Well, Hyunkook is there, and Hyunkook's, hey, Timothy, how's it going? Hey, I don't like my cellmate, and you just got here, and do you want to be cellmates? And I was actually happy to see him because I didn't know a lot of people in Wyndham. So I thought, okay, well, I don't like the whole wrestling thing that he does, but he is a familiar face. He knows my routine. I know his routine. We've been cellmates before, so I'll just shack up with him, right? So we become cellmates, and Hyunkook, he's a lot more relaxed in prison because in the county jail, you don't know what's going on. You're fighting your case. You don't know where you're going to go. So the prison is like more relaxed because people are already sentenced. They know how much time they're doing. And it's a long-term facility, whereas the county jail, people are coming and going. People don't know what's going on, and you're locked down a lot. Where in prison, you get a lot more freedom and just options to do your time. So we're cellmates, and it's not so bad being cellmates with Hyunkook in Wyndham. And the reason why is because we got more time out. We're out of our cells for about 6 hours a day compared to 1 hour a day. So If I don't want to be around him, then I can go out and do something. I can go and play cards. There was a basketball court there, a nice one, nice big one, so I'd play basketball. The food was a lot better. The setup was different. Just a much more relaxed facility. But once again, Hyunkook, he wants to... Oh, and this is another thing about Hyunkook. So Hyunkook's parents didn't put money on his books because he had been in jail and prison his whole life. So I guess when he first started going to jail, his parents would put money on his books. But as he kept going back and staying, I guess his parents were like, they just kind of like gave up on him, and he was still in contact with them, but they had stopped like financially supporting him. But since he was a seasoned convict, he knew how to make money. And the way Hyunkook made money is there was always store guys. A store guy is somebody who runs a jail store. He'll have sodas, he'll have snacks, and what you do is, let's say commissary comes on Friday, let's say it's a Wednesday or Thursday, you've ran out of food, you go to the store guy, you say, hey, can I get a soda, and I'll give you back 2 sodas when I get my commissary. And so that's what the store guy does. He gives you food with interest. So what Hyunkook's hustle was, Hyunkook had a reputation of being a tough guy. He was always showing off his martial arts skills, and so a lot of people were afraid of him. So what Hyunkook would do is he would go and find the store guy. There's usually about 3 store guys in each pod, and then as those guys leave, somebody will take over their spot. So the store guy is always changing. But Hyunkook would go up to the store guy, and store guys, sometimes they're not tough guys. Sometimes they are tough guys, sometimes they're not tough guys. If they are tough guys, they don't want to lose their store. So let's say somebody doesn't pay them. They don't want to go and beat that guy up, because if they go and beat him up, then they lose their store. And these guys are all about money. They'd rather make their money than deal with that. So what Hyunkook would do is he'd go up to the store guys and say, hey, if you pay me a certain amount a week, you give me $20 a week, I will enforce all of your debts. So you give me $20. If anybody owes you money, I will press them and have them pay you. And if they don't pay you, then I'll break their arm. And that's what. And so basically, Hyunkook was security for the store people. And so that's what he did. That's how he made his money. And if somebody didn't pay, Hyunkook would go in their cell and hurt them. A lot of times Hyunkook didn't have to hurt them. What he would do is just, if they didn't pay, he'd like grab them or throw them around. Like he would try to resort to less lethal tactics before he would have to get lethal. Hold on. So yeah, so that was Hyunkook's get down, was being an enforcer. And that's what he did. So we're in Wyndham, and Wyndham, so I like to go to the Christian church services. In the county jail, we had some really good church services. Really charismatic guys came in, we'd do prayer time, we'd go over the Bible, and I learned a lot of things from some very educated teachers that came into the county jail. It was my favorite part about doing time, was the guys that would come in and teach the Word of God. In Wyndham, there was no Christian services. All there was Catholic services. So you go in, you got these hymn books, we all sing a hymn together, and then we go over usually like one of 6 Bible passages. And it's usually Jesus and the fig tree, or Jesus turning water into wine, or I think it was Jesus healing a paralyzed man. I don't think, maybe it wasn't the paralyzed man, but in the Catholic hymn books, they only read the Gospels. They don't open up the whole Bible. They read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They don't get into Acts. They just stick to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So every time I go to these Catholic services, I know we're just going to be going over something from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I like to dive deeper into the Bible, into the hidden stuff. So that's one of the things that I did not like about Wyndham was the religious services. Another thing that I didn't like about Wyndham was that they didn't have a gym. There was no weights. There was no there was a pull-up bar, but it was like all rusted. Nobody wanted to touch it. Exercise was kind of like they had a staircase, and so you would climb up on the back of the staircase, and you would do pull-ups there, and then you would do what do you call them? Rows, where you put your feet on the stairs and you go like this, and you pull up like that, right? And those were fun, but they get old after a while, you know, especially when you're trying to take working out really serious. And that's what I did. I tried to use my time wisely, Bible, working out, just trying to better myself, because I knew I was going to get out at some point, and I was just so tired of going back to jail, going back to prison, starting all over again, losing everything, starting all over again, never getting my feet planted and being able to make anything for myself. And I was getting older, you know, I wasn't in my 20s anymore. You know, I was just so tired of being a loser. So prison for me was enlightening, because I was really trying to work on myself, deep in myself, like work on the things that were deep inside my heart, work on my body, just change things so when I got out I could be strong. So yeah, so I didn't like the religious services in Wyndham. The food wasn't good. The exercising wasn't good. One of the TVs didn't even work. And then the TV that did work, it was so loud in there that you couldn't even hear the TV. Since it was a transfer facility, you were allowed to have TVs in your cell. But since it was a transfer facility, people weren't grounded there long enough to even get their TVs. Because when you order a TV in prison, it takes like 3 months to get to you. You got to order it, and then finally, eventually, it shows up. So let's say you get to Wyndham and then you order a TV. By the time you get transferred, your TV's getting to Wyndham, then they got to transfer it to wherever it is you went to. You know, and sometimes they transfer people all over the place. Like I said, there's 2 places, but then there's also a bunch of work facilities, and a lot of people get transferred to the work facilities. I never got to go to any of those work facilities, but from what I hear, they were really cool. People would go there and they'd make thousands of dollars, and then when they get released from prison, they got $20,000. It was pretty cool. They still do that today. So yeah, so I don't like really the things they got going on in Wyndham. The guards are just they're not cool. They're either like strictly by the book, or they're just not good. Nobody I could relate to, you know. Not that I hung out with guards, but you know, there was some cool guards. There was a guy, I'll make another video about this guy, named Davis Glazner. He was my favorite guard. This guy was awesome. He let you do whatever you want. As long as you didn't mess with him, he'd let you do whatever you wanted. The guy ended up getting caught selling cocaine. But he was the coolest guard. Glazner, if you're watching this, you're the man. Never sold any cocaine to the inmates or anything. It was all, he did it on the outside. He had connected with some of the guys in the jail, but it was mostly outside of the jail. I got mad respect for Glazner, man. He was cool. So I don't like the things going on in Wyndham. Even though it's better than the county jail, it's, what's the word? I just couldn't grow spiritually there. So Hyunkook is my cellmate. Fix this camera. Hyunkook is my cellmate, and this is where everything takes a turn, right? So we're cellmates, and he wants to wrestle. I'm like, Hyunkook, I don't want to wrestle, man. I just don't want. He's like, come on. And it's like, every time we wrestle, it just ends up turning into him putting me in a choke, and like, you know what I mean? Like, he wouldn't play fair. He'd always like try to like hurt me, like not like hurt me to the point where it would like do serious damage, but he'd push it too far. And I didn't like doing that, because I would always think about going up to him at dinner and like cracking him in the side of the head with a bunch of batteries and just like cheap shotting him and just beating the crap out of him, just so that we could get transferred and move cells. Like it almost happened a couple times where I almost attacked him, blindsided him, because I knew that he'd beat me in a one-on-one. So I was going to like just blindside him and beat the crap out of him with weapons. But luckily I didn't have to. So he wants to wrestle, so we're like, all right, we're wrestling. So in Wyndham, they give you these brand new white t-shirts, nice and white. So we're wrestling, and he gets me in this choke called a skull crusher. And the skull crusher is basically where he puts you in a choke, but he's choking out your head, so it's like squeezing your skull. It's a skull crusher. And he had it tight, like he was like I said, he was taking it too far, right? My ear starts bleeding, not a lot, just like my ear just kind of rips a little bit. And we stopped wrestling, and I got some drops of blood on my white shirt. It's not a lot of blood, just very minor. But with the white shirt, you know, like, and I'm sweating, so a little drip of blood on the white shirt, like, expands. So if you got 7 drops of blood, it looked worse than it was, okay? So the guards are going by to do their rounds. Keep in mind, we were wrestling. I wasn't paying attention to when the guards were doing their rounds. They come by, I think Wyndham, they do it every 30 minutes. So the guards are doing their rounds, and I'm in the sink, and I'm all sweaty. I'm washing my face, and I'm not paying attention to I don't even know if I noticed the blood on my shirt. So the cops come by, looks in the cell. Oh, because in Wyndham, you can't be laying down. When the cops are doing their rounds, you have to be standing up. That's the rule, or else you get in trouble. Oh, and that's another thing. I had gotten in trouble twice. So I was used to the county jail. You know, you can sleep whenever you want. So when the cops do their rounds, you have to be standing up. So I had gotten written up twice because they came around and I was sleeping. And they were giving me crap out. I'm like, dude, I don't know the time. And, you know, I didn't know. So those were 2 write-ups. Even though they were small write-ups, they were 2 small write-ups. So the cop goes by, he sees the blood. He says, hey, what's going on in there? And I'm like, dude, nothing. And Hyunkook's like, yeah, nothing. And we're both sweating. So the cop sees the blood and automatically thinks we just gotten into a fight. So he gets on the radio. He's like, oh, we got a code, whatever the code was. Calls the code. All the officers come up, right? What's going on here? What's going on? I'm like nothing, right? They pull him out. They're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, we were just wrestling around. So when he tells them they're wrestling, I'm like, all right. He told them we're wrestling. I'll just tell them that we were wrestling. So he's like, yeah, we were wrestling. So what they do is they transfer us both to the hole and put us under like investigation. We're in there for like 3 days, and after 3 days, they ask us like, hey, they ask me, do you have any problems with him? I'm like, no, I don't got no problems with him. They ask him, hey, do you have problems with him? No, I don't got no problems with him. Really, we weren't fighting. But we got written up as if we had gotten into a fight. So the good thing was I'd have to be cellmates with him no more. So that was a good thing. Second good part was in the hole. It was nice and warm, and like, the food, the state food was actually pretty good in Wyndham. So you get like these nice meals brought to you, and yeah, the hole wasn't too bad there. Nice big cell. So we're both in the hole. After a few days, they make us sign paperwork, and they let us back out. So we go back into the pod. They put him in a different cell. They put me in a different cell. And that was that. So then, I don't remember how long it was after that. I want to say maybe a month. I'm thinking I'm going to stay in Wyndham. Which, whatever, I was okay with it, I guess. Because I didn't know what the other facilities were like, so I couldn't make comparisons because I didn't know. But so I'm in Wyndham, and then after about a month, they call my name, and they call a bunch of other people's name, and they said, all right, you guys are getting transferred. I'm like, transferred? I said, where am I going? They said, oh, you're going to MSP, Maine State Prison. I'm like, because they only transferred like the troublemakers. And, you know, people that had problems with certain people. I'm like, transferred to Maine State Prison? Why am I getting transferred to Maine State Prison? I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, was it the write-ups? And I'm like, so that was it. The reason why I was getting transferred, because I had the 2 write-ups for falling asleep when they were going around doing count, and then I got written up for fighting. So if you look at that on paper, it looks like I'm a troublemaker. I'm a nuisance. I'm causing the jail trouble. So they send me to Maine State Prison, and I wouldn't say I was scared, but I was nervous, because like I heard stories about this. I knew that all like the worst of the worst, I knew that's where they went. So I'm a little nervous. So I get there, and I'm a pretty quiet inmate. I don't run my mouth. I just try to do my thing, right? And so I get up there, and immediately I notice a difference, because they got to feed us when we get there. So we get a tray. I'm noticing there's a different level of respect with the guards. Like, the guards are very respectful, and I'm thinking, oh, they must be very respectful, because this is where the big boys are at. They'll kill you if you're not respectful here. So those are the first 2 things I noticed: the level of respect and the food. And things were just a lot more laid back. You can tell this is a different place. So they send me to my housing unit, and this is this is a level 3 prison. So it was a level 3, but then there was also parts of it that were level 4. But the part that I was in was a level 3. So I get there, and they lock all the cells. It's cell living, 2 men to a cell. They lock all the cells at, like, I want to say 6 o'clock. So everybody's out during the day, and then at 6 o'clock you got to go in your cell, and then you're locked down until the morning. And then they open cells early, like chow's at 5 o'clock, and so you're out from 5 o'clock in the morning. So I get here, and it's past 6 o'clock, so all the doors are shut, and I go in there, and I hear somebody yelling my name, "Yo, Timothy, Timothy!" And I'm looking, I'm like, who's that? And so you're not supposed to like go up and talk to people in their cell, but in this particular place, like I can see other people, they're walking up to people's cells. I'm like, oh, this is pretty laid back. I'm gonna go see who's calling my name. So I go, and it's my boy Brendan. I met Brendan at this poker room called The Dungeon in Portland, Maine. There's a place that you can go. It's like I don't think it's an illegal casino. It's run by this guy, and you just it looks like a living room, but it's turned into a little miniature casino. And it was just a place in town where all like the convicts went, and the degenerates and the drug addicts and the drug dealers, they'd all go there and play cards. It was a pretty cool place. But I met Brendan there because I was a heroin fentanyl addict, and Brendan was a fentanyl addict, and I had went to the bathroom to go and do a shot, and I come out, and Brendan's like, he's like, "Hey, do you have any more?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Dude," he's like, I know what you were doing in the bathroom." He said, "You just left your needles in the bathroom." I'm like, "Oh, I did? Oh, yeah." so I was selling at the time, and so I ended up selling some to Brendan. But me and Brendan were like, we were kind of tight out there, like, because I was his dealer at first, and then I could never deal for too long because I'd always mess up the money. But Brendan would still call me because I had all the connections. So even though I wasn't selling to him anymore, he would call me because I would know where to get it. And me and Brendan were friends for a couple of years. So it was cool. It was cool knowing somebody from the streets. And then when the doors popped in the morning and we went to breakfast, there was like 10 people that I knew. Like 3 of them from the streets, and then a bunch of people that were in the county jail that had gotten transferred. So I'm like, man, I know all kinds of people. Like I didn't think I was gonna know anybody, but here I am. I'm just like, so it ended up being pretty cool. So I'm like, okay, so the write-ups I got with Hyunkook, this is looking kind of positive. So I'm eating, and I'm noticing the change in food. Like, I think it was a Friday or Saturday. On Saturday you get eggs with sausage and milk, and there's a lot of people who don't eat the sausage and the eggs, and they're coming up to you, "Hey, you want this?" Like, yeah, I want the eggs, of course. Yes, of course I want the sausage patties. I'm trying to like stick it in my socks, trying to bring food back with me, and everybody's like, yo, you don't gotta do that, man. Like, if you're hungry, there's food in the pods. Like, you don't gotta stuff it in your sock like you do the county jail. I'm like, oh, all right, bet, yeah, all right. So that's another positive thing. So it's church time. There's a gigantic chapel. It is like a regular church. There's a band. The band members are all inmates, but there's an inmate band. There's a recording studio. The gym, okay, the gym in Maine State Prison is better than 24-hour fitness. Hands down, I would say it's twice as good as 24-hour fitness. And so you go to breakfast, and then, was it before lunch? Oh, yeah. So then they open up the gym at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Lunchtime is at like 11 or 12. So you got like 4 hours that you can just be in this gym. They got a weight room, a full-on weight room. Was it one weight? Yeah, one weight room. And the equipment, it's like old. Like the lat pull down is probably like from the 1940s, but it's meticulously maintained. Like, doesn't make any squeaks. It's well oiled. Old machine, but just very, very, it does the job, and it's very well maintained. I loved it. I thought the old equipment was fantastic. All the weights were old. You could tell like it had been there probably for 50 years. The weight room was great. They had a nice, I wouldn't say a nice sound system, but nice for prison. They had these big speakers, and there was somebody that was in charge of the music, and so you got a lot of people that like rap music and a lot of people that like, you know, the white people. There's a lot of white people in Maine that like heavy, so they would mix it. Like every song would either be heavy metal or rap, and they'd alternate, like, to make everybody happy. It was cool, man. So that was a place you just got to zone out, listen to music, and lift weights. And man, people here were jacked. So I had been in the county jail for like a year, working out every day. I was in incredible shape. I get to the prison, and people don't even think that I worked out there, because there's a huge difference between doing calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, and dips, to somebody who's on a bench press doing weight training. Like my body compared to other people's bodies was not the same, but I was excited because I knew I was going to get to that point. And the way it is there is you got a lot of lifers, and so lifers, they have their area and they have their time. So like from 10 to 10:30, Bobby the lifer has got this machine and nobody's allowed to touch it. And so you got slots, but as long as you're respectful, if you go up to somebody and you say, hey, can I bump in and get a set in real quick, they're totally cool with it. Yeah, as long as you're respectful, these guys don't care. But if you're trying to like throw your weight around and like take over spots and try to claim territory, you're gonna get stabbed for sure. But as long as you're respectful, you know what I mean? Say, excuse me, just be polite. Hey, how you doing? Because, you know, it's jail. People are on edge. People are mad. So if you're polite to people like that. People like respect. And that was, I guess, something good that I had going for me, is I was always naturally polite. I was always naturally respectful. And I genuinely wanted to know about people. If I said, hey, how are you doing? I genuinely wanted to know, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? You know, like, what's your story? You know, I never asked people what they were in for. The reason why is because I already know everybody's in for the same thing. Drugs, had something to do with drugs, stealing to get drugs, robbery for drugs. You know, like, it's very rare that somebody told me that they were in for something unique, you know. Get the occasional bank robber, but still robbing banks for drugs. So, I mean, everybody's in pretty much just for drugs. And the black guys, I don't mean to be stereotypical, but the black guys, you already know they're in for selling drugs. They all have New York accents, you know, like all the guys from New York, they get their drugs for a low price. They come to Maine and get rich from selling, or they get arrested. So that's the way it was there. The weight room was great. The chapel was awesome. Okay, in the chapel, you got a service on Wednesday and you got a service on Sunday, and they're both great services, different speakers on different days. There's the amount of activities that was going on. There was a weightlifting competition. Each dorm, or not dorm, each pod had their own basketball team, and there was basketball season. So you got the regular season, you got the playoffs, and then you got the championship, okay? And people take it serious. And I'm a basketball player, so this is big to me. And after basketball season, you got volleyball season. And then in the summer, you got baseball or softball season. I forget which one it was. But yeah, so you got all these sports. Then you got handball. And I'll tell you what, I got good at handball in the county jail. I would say I was one of the best handball players. I get to prison and I'm getting smoked by these 60-year-old guys. They are just, the thing about handball is ball placement. You want to be able to put that ball wherever you want to put it. And see, I was fast. I could run and get the ball and chase down a ball, but my weakness was ball placement. I couldn't pinpoint where I wanted to put that ball, and these guys could. And so they would smoke me because of ball placement. So that there's another positive. On my other video, you guys will see that my cellmate had a TV. I never ended up getting a TV, but my cellmate had a TV. His name was Matt. He had done a shootout. He got into a shootout with the Maine State Police. I'm actually going to bring him on for an interview. He's going to be my first interview. But Matt was my cellmate. He had a TV. We had cable. Matt worked in the kitchen. He was a great cellmate, probably the best cellmate I've ever had. Very respectful, would always let me use the TV. He was gone most of the time at work. Real shy kid, but he wouldn't let you push him around. Not that I wanted to, but you know, shy kid. You could tell, just good kid. Just at some point, just something happened. But Matt was a really good cellmate. I like the guy. I'm still in touch with him. He just got out last year, and I've been in touch with him on Facebook Messenger. Matt is a really cool guy, very smart guy. He was always planning things, trying to put together different ways of making money when he was going to get released. Gave me some really good ideas. Gave me some very not good ideas too. Matt, you know what I'm talking about. The Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. So Matt was a cool cellmate. So these are all positive things of getting there. I was in a lot of prayer, like deep prayer, and I feel like the Hyunkook situation ended up becoming like an answered prayer, because all of these positive things start happening. I'm on the spot here because I'm not writing this video. This is all just coming from memory, but there's a lot of other positive things that I can't like put in here. Oh, so we had there after the basketball championship, there was a 3-point competition, and I came in second out of the entire. And you gotta remember, there's a lot of good basketball players. These guys, they played the G League team. The G League comes to play the prison. You get a lot of good players, man. They're good. They beat the G League team. I came in second place in Maine State Prison in the 3-point competition. And then I had to go into sudden death with somebody else who tied me in the 3-point competition. He got me in sudden death. I ended up placing third for the 3-point competition. I won $5, and then the prison put the money on my books, the $5, and guess what? They took $2.50 for restitution. Isn't that something? So yeah, so basketball. I'm trying to think of the other positives. The phone. County jail, I want to say phone time is, I think it's like $1 a minute. Prison, 12 cents a minute. That was back in 2017. I don't know if it's changed now. But yeah, so the phone, like, there was a lot of people there that I knew. That guy Anthony, the one that had given me the cocoa butter when I got into the fight, he was there. Yeah, so it ended up being a positive thing being at the Maine State Prison. I ended up doing my time well, getting into good shape, lifting a lot of weights, meeting some solid people, diving deep into the Bible, getting my mind right, And so that's the end of the story. I will pick up